If Iran threatens us in any way, they will pay a price like few countries have ever paid.
Concern, Iran may be preparing for retaliation against all of that. Israel has gone on alert, as you say.
It won't be so easy for them to restart. Mr. President, they're not going to be restarting anything. They restart it, they're going to have big problems, bigger than they've ever had before. And you can mark it down. They restart their nuclear program, they will have bigger problems than they have ever had before. Thank you very much, everybody.
America is about to go to war, a war that she wants, a war that she thinks she can control. The stakes are high. Who will rule and who will be ruled? Who deserves to live and who deserves not to live? This is the battle for the planet. The blacks in America are oblivious to reality, oblivious to the threat. The blacks in America are about to be thrown into the fire. Gog and Magog have decided the fate of the blacks. They are tired of carrying them, tired of seeing them, tired of pacifying them. The main target is the original black people, the true inheritors, the true people of the book. As Pharaoh and King Herod were fully aware of the birth of the Messiah and the threat to their kingdoms, so is America equally aware, even more so, as they monitor the writings of Jonah, aka Suleiman, though the blacks ignore them. They know what time it is and what's at stake. They have made their plans and we have made our plans. Total war, like never seen before. Time of unprecedented trouble. There will be no rules, no restraints, no quarter, nor mercy shown to anyone. America, the harlot, Babylon, is going for broke. She has planned to scorch the surface of the earth, make the earth unlivable. Quote, if they can't have it, then no one can, end quote. We have our plans. Farad is about to execute his plan, leading his Shia army against America, Britain, and false Israel to their worst humiliating military defeat in the Middle East, preempting America, Britain, and false Israel, the dragon, Saudi Arabia's plan to attack and destroy Iran. This is imminent. It will come upon America, Britain, and false Israel as a snare. In their last act of desperation, they will send you, their black seed, their black bastards against us. Their plan is to use you to annihilate us, then annihilate you. We are watching. Let's be absolutely clear. The sperm is the seed, not the egg. That fact is both scientific, biblical, Quranic, historical, and logical. Anyone that says different is either a liar, misinformed, ignorant, or just plain stupid. You are what your father is, period. The prophecy, quote, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years, end quote, is addressed to Abraham's seed, not Yaakov's devil's seed. Anyone who tells you that one drop of black blood makes you black is a liar, unless they mean it in generic terms. It might make you black, but does it make you Abraham's seed? Does it make you original? There are two seeds in the world, the original seed and the grafted or devil's seed. You are one or the other. The devil promotes that, quote, one drop of blood rule, end quote, to justify throwing the offspring of his rape by women into the cotton fields. They are their children, their seed, not ours. We don't claim them. We don't own them. We don't want them. Pressure is reality. Mathematics is the nature of existence. Everything is mathematics. This age's scientists, philosophers have no mathematical descriptions for the fundamental entities of the universe, such as matter, energy, protons, neutrons, electrons, gravity, etc. They just use mathematics to describe how those things work. If those entities indeed have a mathematical nature, a mathematical description, then unless there are other entities more fundamental than them that do not have a mathematical nature, then everything is mathematics. Everything. Mathematics don't just describe our reality. Mathematics is our reality. In mathematics, there are mathematical constructs that define systems. Trigonometry, for instance, is based on triangles. Calculus is based on the process of going from one dimension to another. There is one construct that encompasses them all, and that is pressure, and its opposite, tension. Pressure is force, and force is the most fundamental concept of mathematics. For every action, there is an opposite but equal reaction. Force is an action, and whatever force is applied, there is a corresponding instantaneous opposite force in effect. This is called justice. It is the equal sign in mathematics. It is called consequence. Whatever is on one side of the equation must be balanced on the other side of the equal sign. It is also called, quote, balance, end quote. It is the most fundamental law in the universe. It is the nature of which the original being created itself. It took the pressure of a fully contracted / imploded universe called the, quote, Big Bang, end quote, to produce the pressure needed for us to self-create. Pressure is atoms moving around at high speeds colliding with each other. Each collision is a force event. Pressure is just a field of force events. Temperature is the measure of how fast the atoms are moving within the pressure field. In a pressure field where the atoms are moving at hyperspeeds, a phenomenon occurs called harmonic motion, which causes the atoms to stop colliding. Harmonic motion is when atoms move in harmony in a circular fashion, pushing against the surface of the field containing them. This event happened at the time of the universe's maximum contraction, where the temperatures reached the speed of 24 billion miles per second, causing them to achieve harmonic motion called consciousness. Newton did not invent or discover the calculus, what has become to be called, quote, the calculus, end quote, was a mathematical method known in India, South/Central America, Africa, and even to some degree in China. Its use was generally reserved for the priests, highly educated, the engineers, but school children were aware of it. It is actually not a complex idea. It is really simple in fact. The Europeans learned of the calculus method from their journeys to those lands and brought the knowledge back to Europe. The books and knowledge that they were able to steal from those cultures was brought back home and given to people like Newton to check and verify and find some use for it. Newton's greatest contribution was to provide an algebraic method or proof of the calculus and present it in a way that his European brothers could understand it, even though he didn't fully understand it himself. Ask yourself, if he invented the calculus and was such a mathematical genius, why didn't he even imagine the integral, which is the inverse of the derivative, as subtraction is to addition and division is to multiplication? It's because he didn't invent it and didn't fully understand it. Every mediocre mathematician knows that there is an inverse to every method, but he didn't see or conceive the obvious, the inverse of the derivative of what is called the calculus. Just consider the following slides and see if the calculus is not something a child could understand. The universe has two states called energy and matter. Energy and matter are two aspects of one thing. The spin of the universe is its energy, its ability to expand by reason of the nature of matter. For anything to expand, it must convert potential space to space by definition. It has to create space where there was no space, create something from nothing. To contract, the opposite must occur. Space has to be converted to non-space, potential space. The zero dimension is non-space, which has the ability to become space, potential space. Zero-dimensional space is ubiquitous, meaning it is everywhere but can't be detected. Dark matter, as it is zero space, potential space. Zero-dimensional space is geometrically a point. Zero-dimensional space is matter. Matter can be converted to space. All space is energy. Energy is space. All space is energy. It takes the centrifugal force of the spinning universe to convert potential space to space. Therefore, space is energy as force is energy. When a potential space, matter, is converted to space, energy, the force that converted the potential space to space, matter to energy, is equal to the force/energy that generated it. That force is designated as 1 unit of energy. Thus, it takes 1 unit of force/energy to convert potential space, matter, to 1 unit of space, energy. The universe is three-dimensional. Therefore, the units of space/energy will reflect the nature of the universe that created it. The units of generated energy will also be three-dimensional. If the universe was six-dimensional, then the converted space would be six-dimensional too. Neutrons are the units of energy/space that are generated by the expanding universe. The universe expands by converting matter to energy, potential space to space. Neutrons are three-dimensional spheres, as the universe is a three-dimensional, quote, mathematical, end quote, sphere. The more the universe expands, the more neutrons it spontaneously produces. You can determine how fast the universe is expanding by the rate at which neutrons are generated. It requires 1 unit of force to convert a matter unit to a neutron. Neutrons are tension fields. Tension is a pulling fission force. Pressure is opposite, is a pushing fusion force. Since the neutron is pulled or expanded into existence, it is a tension field. The tension is the energy, the nature of the space, and it is 1 unit of force or 1 unit of tension, as tension is energy, energy is force. Neutrons exposed to 2 units of force spins. A spinning neutron is a proton. A proton is 2 units of force, tension, energy. Matter can only be converted to the size of a neutron. Not being able to expand to a larger size, it spins instead. Force in the universe comes in discrete units, so-called quantum. A quanta is equal to the amount of force it takes to convert matter to energy or potential space to space. In this case, matter to a neutron. Quanta cannot be divided into fractions. The quanta unit is the smallest unit possible, except for its derivative. A derivative is not a fraction. It takes 1 quanta to convert matter to a neutron. It takes an additional quanta to convert a neutron to a proton. The second unit causes the neutron to spin. A spinning neutron is a proton. A neutron is a 1 quanta tension field. A proton is a 2 quanta tension field. Electrons are derivatives of protons. It takes a quantum to effect a proton. It takes a derivative of a quantum to effect an electron. A derivative is not a fraction. A square is not a fraction of a cube. Electrons exist in discrete shells or positions about corresponding protons. Each position is 1 or more equantum from another. For an electron to shift from one shell, one position, it loses 1 equantum. That equantum is an echo and untethered clone of the electron. It spins as the electron spins, and as a result has e-torque. It is a photon. Its e-torque is its motivation force. It is a plane, 2-dimensional, as it is the derivative of a proton, which is a sphere, 3-dimensional. Its 2-dimensional surface oscillates between a point, 0-dimensional, and a plane, 2-dimensional. The oscillation is its wavelength. The so-called speed of light is its average velocity. Photons actually accelerates. Its velocity at crest of its wavelength is much greater than the so-called speed of light, as its torque or translating/motivation force is greatest at that point. At the point between 2 crests of its wavelength, it comes to a full stop as its spin is spent, resulting in no torque to motivate it. Photon-based computers could be sped up significantly, dramatically, if they could be made to respond at half a wavelength of photons. The universe is a tension field. The space or tension surrounding a proton, which itself is a 2-unit tension field, is equal to 2 tension units. A free neutron, being equal to 1 tension unit, will spontaneously convert to a proton as the space surrounding it is equal to 2 tension units. Everything has to balance. The universe is a mathematical construct, period. The tension space between 2 protons is equal to the tension space which is the proton. The tension space surrounding protons is equal to 2 tension units or 2 quanta. The tension pulling protons apart is equal to 2 quanta. That's the nature of charge. Charge is not a force per se, but a condition of balance, which assures that there is no net tension. Tension is equal everywhere. The normal universal tension is 2 tension units, 2 quanta. Thus, 2 tension units separate all protons from each other. It takes 2 tension units to force them together, which generates a resisting force of 2 tension units pulling them apart. Electrons are derivatives of protons. It takes a quantum to effect a proton. It takes a derivative of a quantum to effect an electron. A derivative is not a fraction. A square is not a fraction of a cube. Electrons exist in discrete shells or positions about corresponding protons. Each position is one or more e-quantum from another. For an electron to shift from one shell, one position, it loses one e-quantum. That e-quantum is an echo and untethered clone of the electron. It spins as the electron spins and as a result has e-torque. It is a photon. Its e-torque is its motivation force. It is a plane, two-dimensional, as it is the derivative of a proton, which is a sphere, three-dimensional. Its two-dimensional surface oscillates between a point, zero-dimensional, and a plane, two-dimensional. The oscillation is its wavelength. The so-called speed of light is its average velocity. Photons actually accelerates. Its velocity at crest of its wavelength is much greater than the so-called speed of light, as its torque or translating/motivation force is greatest at that point. At the point between two crests of its wavelength, it comes to a full stop as its spin is spent, resulting in no torque to motivate it. Photon-based computers could be sped up significantly, dramatically, if they could be made to respond at half a wavelength of photons. If two protons are forced together in a process to effect fusion, the force called charge will resist as it will disrupt the tension field balance surrounding the protons. The resistance will be 2 tension units or 2 quanta, as that is the normal tension. Once forced together, the resistance will pull them apart if there is nothing to prevent it. The resistance is tension. Tension pulls things apart. Tension causes things to expand. Matter, point, potential space are ubiquitous, meaning everywhere. Once the two protons are forced together, there is a tension field resistance of 2 quanta. It takes 1 quanta of tension to convert matter to a neutron. If the two protons are forced together long enough for the 2 quanta tension fields to affect 2 matter units, then 2 matter units will be converted to 2 neutrons, which will neutralize the resistance generated by forcing the protons together. Instead of pulling the 2 protons apart, the resistance tension pulled 2 neutrons into existence. This is called fusion. The process of the neutrons neutralizing the resistance tension is called, quote, strong force, end quote. It's really not a force per se. It's a balance or balancing of forces. If 2 protons that are fused together, held together by 2 neutrons, have their neutrons removed, then there is nothing to maintain the fusion and they will fly apart. They will fly apart with the force of 2 quanta or 2 tension units. Atoms are fused protons. The more complex the atom, meaning the more protons fused, the more unstable the atom is. Unstable means there is a degree of instability in the fusion of the protons in the atom. The instability derives from the fact that when protons are fused, the neutrons generated were generated from nearby matter. It was stated that matter is ubiquitous, which is nearly correct. Matter is virtually ubiquitous. The fusion process converts matter which is closest in proximity, which means that there is a slight distance that the matter point has to travel to the fusion event. That distance is not absorbed by the resistance tension. 100% of the resistance tension was used to convert the matter point to a neutron. This means that the generated neutrons vibrate between the fusion event and their original positions. This is the instability factor called, quote, weak force, unquote. The more complex the atom, the more pronounced the vibrations causing resonance, which works to the instability of the atom called radiation. Protons spin in sync with the universal spin according to the so-called right-hand rule. When a proton is forced to spin in a contrary manner opposite the right-hand rule, then it becomes contrary and anti-proton. If such a proton and antiproton left-handed were to come in contact with a normal right-handed proton, the two would annihilate each other, converting their combined four quanta into an open tension field, unleashed energy. Protons displace space. Neutrons displace space. They don't occupy space, they displace space, three-dimensional space. They are integral to space. They are the fabric of space. Neutrons and protons are the only entities in the universe that displace space. Neutrons and protons, because they displace space, curve the space around them. Neutrons and protons are tension fields that distort the space around them, which are themselves tension fields at the rate of 1 over r squared. The greater the cluster of atoms, neutrons, and protons, the greater the distortion surrounding them. Neutrons and protons in the surrounding field will displace the space surrounding them. Since they displace space, there will be a differential in the force of the tension field surrounding them. As tension is a pulling force, the tension closest to the cluster will be greater than the tension force opposite, which will cause the protons, neutrons to shift towards the cluster. This is called gravity. Gravity is not a force, it's a force differential. Since neutrons and protons are very small, the force differential is very small, which is why gravity is such a weak phenomenon relative to other universal forces. Since gravity is the result of a space differential, it only affects protons and neutrons, which means that's all that gravity sees. No matter how large the object, all that gravity sees is its elements, which is why everything falls towards gravity at the same rate under gravity. Electricity is a current, result of a string of protons deprived of corresponding electrons. Each proton has a corresponding electron. When that electron is removed, it attracts any available electron in its proximity. If there is a string or chain of electrons, then a current will result, where each electron will snatch its neighboring proton's electron. The greater the electron deficiency in the chain, the greater the current. The current is an attempt to normalize the normal condition of each proton, which is satisfied when each proton in the chain is married to its own electron. Magnetism is a current, result of a spatial array of protons deprived of corresponding electrons. Each proton has a corresponding electron. When that electron is removed, it attracts any available electron in its proximity. If there is an spatial array of electrons, then a current will result where each electron will snatch its neighboring proton's electron. The greater the electron deficiency, the greater the current. If this sounds like electricity, it is because they are the same thing, one linear, one spatial. Electricity is linear, while magnetism is spatial. And spatial array as opposed to a linear array. The proton engine is an engine that is powered by proton power. It only affects protons and electrons. It repels protons. It's analogous to a monopole. A monopole is a magnet with just one pole. No one has ever been able to make such a magnet. If they did, its power would be awesome. A 1 pound magnet can lift a pound of iron up from the earth. The earth is 66 sextillion tons, which is hundreds of sextillions times larger than 1 pound than a 1 pound magnet. Yet the 1 pound magnet is more powerful than the entire earth. It can snatch a pound of iron up from the earth. That should provide some perspective. A proton engine is at least as powerful and can be scaled up, increasing its power correspondingly. That's the kind of engine we use to navigate the universe in the process of making stars and planets. The proton engine requires no fuel. It uses magnetism to operate it. Though analogous to a monopole, it is something different. It can accelerate at any rate desired, depending on the scale of the engine. If a vehicle with a proton engine were to accelerate at the rate of 10,000 miles per second, it is humbling to imagine its velocity after about an hour. You will have far exceeded light speed, yet they can be made to accelerate at many times that rate. The philosophers will tell you, the same philosophers they call scientists that just discovered the world is not flat, that you can't exceed the speed of light, even though light itself travels faster than the observed rate of 186,000 miles per second. That is an average velocity. The technologists, philosophers of this age will insist that no human could survive such acceleration rates. The proton engine is constructed such that it has two opposing engines, one above the other, with the human-occupied space separating them. The two engines would be calibrated to have a force differential which be equivalent to the force of normal Earth gravity. This is so that the occupants, no matter how fast the vehicle/ship is accelerating, would only experience the force of normal Earth gravity. The ship would be restricted to accelerating in the direction perpendicular to the plane of the occupants. Now that's a real inertial dampener. The analytically oriented Western technologists/philosophers cannot produce such technology, even if they had 1,000,000 years to study. A dog could never produce a bow and arrow, even if it had 1,000,000,000 years to do so. It is beyond their capability. The analytical mind is limited. Even if they could somehow acquire it, which they never can, they would need a special computer, which is again way beyond their capability. To navigate through the universe at such velocities, you would have to know where every star is, every planet, every comet, every asteroid, every rock. You wouldn't want to hit anything moving at hyperspeeds. Such a computer would itself be as awesome, or even more so, as the proton engine. Such a computer would not only have to be aware of every object, but would have to track every object in the universe. This means seeing into the future with perfect accuracy. Such a computer will allow you to communicate with anyone in the past or future who themselves has such a computer. The proton engine and the T computer are just a couple examples of the technology used by our ancestors, which Farad has at his disposal, and will be restored to us post haste after our oppressors have been crushed. Why reveal any of this to our oppressors? Much they already know, at least what they have been able to observe. I'm revealing what I'm revealing so that they, our oppressors, will be certain as to the origin and control of these vehicles, which they call UFOs. They are not extraterrestrial. Their origin is Earth, made by humans. If they should get stupid and make a dumb move, they need to be absolutely certain as to the immediate consequence. Those vehicles are there for a purpose. Quote, he who guards Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers. End quote. True Israel, Abraham's seed, who has been enslaved in America for 400 years. Farad did not build the wheel from scratch. Most of the critical components were hidden. He was given the knowledge of their whereabouts. We did not just simply demolish our technology. We have preserved much of it and all the knowledge of it. There is much hidden in the earth. There is much hidden on various planets, well beyond their reach. The heavens will soon be open. We will give our oppressors a glimpse, just a little one, before we put them to sleep forever. We do not pollute our home, the planet Earth, with manufacturing waste. We have manufacturing planets. Thought is pressure. It requires force to move any and everything. Nothing can move or be animated without force. It's impossible otherwise. Pressure is force spread out over a surface or in a voluminous space. It requires force to move or animate your body, so thought must be force. Thought is saturated throughout a voluminous brain, so thought must be pressure. You express your thoughts through words, which are pressure waves. You hear others' words, which are pressure waves through your ears, which detect sound, pressure waves through eardrums, which are pressure membranes, and converts them back to thought or memory. Memory, like the written word, is stored pressure, stored energy. Energy is pressure. The brain was created under extreme pressure, the total pressure of a fully contracted universe. So the pressure of the brain is equal to the total pressure of the universe, which means that the brain can understand the entire universe, and understanding is thought, and thought is pressure. Temperature is a property of pressure. It is the measure of how fast atoms are moving. The entire pressure of the universe caused the atoms at the center of the universe, the Earth's core, to achieve temperatures equal to 24 billion miles per second, the speed of thought, consciousness.